Hello team, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. We are watching the Swedish military assault rifle, the AK5. You can check out the original video in the description. If you can go and give them a like, share and follow. And if you could like, share and follow Combat Ready HQ, I would hugely appreciate it. As always, please comment below with what your thoughts are and what you want to see next. Let's get into it.
Gentlemen, today on Administrative Results, we are going over the Swedish military rifle known as the AK5.
So I have sort of seen this in a few reviews I've done on the Swedish military. I think so far it actually looks like a pretty decent weapon. I feel like they've done all right with this. Yeah, so we'll see what his thoughts are. I'm no sort of gun expert. Yes, I did serve in the British Army, but I'm not a complete, absolute weapon expert or guru or someone that's been completely into them. Really looking forward to this video. But from what I've seen, it seems like a decent weapon. Let's see what they've got to say.
Moving!
Some good editing skills here.
Contact! Contact! Contact!
Good bit of fire maneuver. Looks like it's firing all right. Small recoil. See, the weapon's not really moving much at all when he pulls the trigger. Good weapon position.
There's like 50 guys over there. They're all rushing Alpha. Don't mind when you're on the toilet. I got you. I got your ass. Make sure you wipe. And make sure you also like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Your comments are a sacrifice to the algorithm. God of which who enjoys a beautiful sunset.
Typical American chin strap undone.
We're all gonna make it. Now the AK5 came about to replace the AK4, go figure. If you're wondering, hey admin, that doesn't look like an AK platform, and you would be right. It does not look like a standard AK platform. It looks more NATO-ish, more of the Western world. And what it is that the Swedes have this term, it's like automatic carabiner or whatever it is, and weird funny Swedish words. The Nordic language is very confusing and not Latin based to me, so I can't understand the premise. But with that out of the way, the AK, it's essentially that. It's Assault Rifle 5 for what they would call it. So this replaced what was the licensed version of the G3 that the Swedes were using, and I believe they still use variants of it here and there in their military. And what they have now is a 5.56 being used in their military for the most part.
So typical sort of standard NATO 5.56 round, which majority of sort of standard assault rifles use. And it's good that you cleared that up because that would confuse a lot of people. You know, AK, you think of the AK-47 and other variants, and this is the AK5s. You'd think it's sort of similar sort of family of weapons, but obviously not. It's just the way the Swedish obviously have their language and how it sort of translates.
Admiring my sweet Swedish desert camo that I got from Americana Piping Apparel, sponsor of the channel. Wow, what fantastic young Zoomers they are. I said, wow, they have excellent taste in camo, excellent tape and military clothing. I said, they're one of the best, one of the best. I love those guys greatly. They take good care of me on this channel. They will take great care of you as a customer. They are fantastic and they are funny, and you should go follow them on social media as well. I don't know why they even sponsor me because they are so funny themselves, but I am happy that they do. So link for them will be down in the description below. Go check them out. So big thank you to those guys. We also have to thank American Heart for Gold. Now, American Heart for Gold, if you like precious metals such as brass and lead, I think you'll like the option to have, you know, some other financial investments. And American Heart for Gold offers that because in times of uncertainty, you know, it's good to have some precious metals. The American dollar is also being contested on the world stage, so maybe having a little bit of those extra precious metals, silvers and such is not a bad idea. They wanted me to tell you on your first order when you close, you're gonna get $5,000 of free silver. That's a pretty good deal from what I can tell. I'm not good at math, but that sounds like a good deal. Links for American Heart for Gold give me the description down below. Go check them out. Big thank you to them for also sponsoring this video. So this AK5 is going to be an amalgamation of different things going on. So if you're wondering what the base gun for an AK5 is, you are most inquisitive. Good for you. So essentially what happened is back in the day, the FN was being tried out by a bunch of different folks, and the Swedes were like, hey, let's give this thing a go. And essentially FN licensed the FN to the Swedes, and the Swedes picked it up and they modified it to their liking to fit their big old Nordic fighting style of being in the Arctic tundra. Winter is coming. They're essentially
okay, yeah, so obviously winter is coming, Nordic lifestyle. What is it? It's cold, it's absolutely freezing, so a weapon needs to be able to operate and function in cold weather as also as hot climates as well. So that's obviously one difficulty that they do have. It needs to be able to operate in a wide variety of temperatures.
It's like, it'd be like Game of Thrones, Northmen, they need a gun that can fight beyond the walls. So that's what the Swedes did. What a nerdy reference for a nerdy channel. Wow. Wow, an amazing reference. So that's essentially what the Swedes did, and that brings us to here. So they picked it up in the mid-'80s to replace the AK-4, bringing us to the AK-5. Now, the AK-5 is kind of like, I would equate it to an M16 of the American standards. And as time would progress, the Swedes realized that the AK-5 was lacking in certain modularity aspects, and they wanted to upgrade it and eventually get to the AK-5C. Many of you should be familiar with the AK-5C if you've ever played Battlefield 4. The AK-5C in that game,
I'm a Call of Duty guy.
A cult following amongst the nerdy crowd, me being one of them, and I'm sure amongst you too. Now, what we have going on here is the upper is going to be an AK-5 and the lower is going to be reminiscent of the AK-5C. Now, I should give you guys a further disclaimer. So what this video is supposed to be, I will say that this video is supposed to be a overall look at the gun. This isn't necessarily a review. To be quite frank with you, there's not a lot of content on YouTube on the AK-5. And even if there was, I want to do it for my own sanity because I'm a dirty YouTuber. I'm a dumb gun guy. I'm a silly goose, most importantly. I'm not telling you how to get an AK-5, but you should stay to the end because I'll tell you how to get an AK-5. Okay, so as I was saying, this AK-5 is cool, but it's not mine. It belongs to my dear friend Otter Weapons. All right, Joel, get over here. Joel, thanks for coming back onto the channel.
Absolutely.
Man. Good to have you back. You have a very impressive, fun clone collection. We call you the General of the Clone Wars.
General Kenobi.
This is going to be your AK-5 that you painstakingly, is what you told me, built out. It said it took you a number of years to get all this particular parts out here, and I just wanted to give you the chance to go over the gun yourself real quick, and you can answer some of my questions that I have.
It's decent how he's managed to do that, like get his hands on a Swedish military AK-5.
12 years ago. Maybe a little bit longer, on Arms List. Actually paid for a rifle and it showed up at an FFL. I didn't get scammed. Paid about $2,500 for it, and it was a standard FNC.
500, how much is
from
that?
Cappuccino and Heat.
Good film.
Picked it up on Arms List for about $2,500 and had it in a 5 FNC configuration for a while. Like you, I was a Battlefield 4 guy. I had to try. I was on the forums a bunch, FAL files, Uzi Talk, just looking for parts. The Swedes treat all gun parts like firearms. So that's why you can never find the parts, is because they don't export them, and how they get here, way beyond me. Started off...
I was thinking that, like, how has he got his hands in this? Obviously, this is a Swedish current service rifle, and I believe, if I remember rightly from all the films, videos I've watched on YouTube, we'll find out later when he says that is an issued, obviously, site as well. This is pretty much what they get issued. Like you said, similarities, I did think M16, and then the front reminds me of sort of the SA80, but very impressive that he's managed to actually get one of these, because even Garrett Thumb, he's managed to get his hands on an SA80 A1. I can't see anyone being able to get their hands on an SA80 A2, A3. So how he's got this, pretty impressive.
Basically just trying to track down the parts. When the gun was imported, they had to cut the rifle grenade ring off, so you just had a flash hider. The handguard, modified it so we could put a light on it. The optic setup, and then the coolest part, this is an actual trigger module off an AK-5C that I got from a Swede. Pretty awesome.
That was very cool.
And then the AK-5C stock, the sling, the selector, the grip, and the winter trigger guard. All that's left in this gun that's really an FNC is the upper receiver, the bolt carrier group, and the barrel.
Okay.
Everything else is a Swedish part or a made part. It took
Very
me about
impressive.
10 years of collecting parts
No way.
to make it happen. It was not
Dedication.
the easiest clone.
Right.
And I am one of very few in the US that have one, so
Yes.
pretty cool.
How many do you think are floating around, clones or?
Probably less than a dozen where there's actual parts.
Wow.
Now, there is talk that Sweden is going to go away from the AK5 and potentially somebody like Apex Gun Parts might be able to get like the kits. The rear sight is actually an AK5 rear sight, so I actually took the FNC sight, cut it off, and then re-welded a AK5C because this.
So he's re-welded that on himself. So this guy knows what he's going on about. Highly impressive. Like,
was
it's highly
coated
skilled.
in '89. It wasn't Cerakote at the time, so it's got this really unique Swedish glossy green.
Yeah.
So you'll kind of see a difference.
How similar is that paint job to, say, a Swedish K?
So pretty close. The green is very indicative of the Swede weapons. So, and they also made these in black too. So sometimes you'll see. And I think we saw pictures of, I don't know if they were FNCs or they were black AK5s in Ukraine. So they are finding their ways on the battlefield still. And the
I like that they do have it green though. There's a lot of guys in the British military now, and even the British military are doing it, starting to paint their weapons more green. There used to be a lot of black with, you know, the handguards and a bit of the sort of butt cheek that were green, and then the rest of the rifle was black, and then some guys would spray paint it. Obviously, there's not a lot of black in nature. So I think having a green rifle does seriously help. So yeah, with all the green in nature and not having the black, obviously painting the weapon green massively helps with camouflage.
The only thing I couldn't find was the AK5 dust cover, which basically has like a rib here. That's the only.
Gotcha.
But then the charging handle is big. And then this is an actual Aimpoint CS, which is the Swedish military optic that Midway had a bunch on
thought it
blowout
was.
for like $300. And then my friend at Aimpoint gave me the mount, the B&T mount. And so now we've got a red dot on it. So do your worst, sir.
Thanks, Joel.
Decent.
Thanks for stopping by again.
Absolutely.
on
Thanks
him.
for having me.
Of course. Joel forgot to mention his light setup real quick. So he essentially, did you drill into this?
Yeah, so I basically just opened it up with a Dremel and then used an M-Lock Magpul rail and then just threw the mod light on there and then just used some Ranger bands to hold the tape switch.
I guess he
Decent
covered everything.
setup.
We're good.
Looks
So the cool
neat,
thing about this
tidy.
gun too is that the grip itself is going to be a 249 grip, but just in green. How fun is that? Wow. Wow. Okay. I will say that the Aimpoint CS optic really is pretty cool. I like that the adjustment is very simple. You can either dial up or down on the bottom, then the side, we'll get some good B-roll shots of it, but the side has a built-in tab. And I like that more than what the current Aimpoint optics are for adjustment. For whatever reason, I saw that and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I like this a lot. Then you have the top Picatinny mount on the red dot itself, which I think is really cool for modularity. Now, it is interesting.
That's becoming very popular. Obviously, the Picatinny mounts. Pretty much every sort of weapon system should have them. Just makes for ease of changing as well. So obviously the old SA80 had two, just had the slide rail for the SUSA, and then they started fitting like Picatinny mounts. You can have LDS, ACOG. I don't really know. I think they're the only sites they're still sort of using, unless you're sort of SF or PF if you're using sort of DeMarcos, etc. But it just makes, like you said, an easy way of modularizing and adding different sites to your weapon system.
The Swedes go through a similar thing that the Americans went through, where M16 is kind of getting outdated, so they need to make it a little bit more modern. And do we want to get a whole new gun, or do we just make what we have that is tried and true even more up to date
while saving money?
You know, M16 to M4, AK5, AK5C. So I think that is pretty neat and pretty cool. So seeing the upgrades that they have makes a lot of sense coming into the modern era. So this being a NATO gun, and the Swedes having deployed to a number of countries, this has been battle proven and combat tested. So that does make it cool. This gun has a lot of pop culture. I think we all think of Detective Hannah. So the AK5 is not only battle tested and proven in that sense, being the global war on terror with the Swedes deploying to the Middle East, guns popping up now in Ukraine, different conflicts in the 90s. This thing is a pop culture icon as well, in the sense that a lot of video games picked it up. The Krieg 6 Call of Duty, AK5C Battlefield 4, you know, DICE being in Sweden. So of course they're probably gonna make the gun just a banger, because in that game it's a good loadout for the engineer class. And then what we have too is movies, mainly with the FNC heat, but you don't really see any modern AK5 movies coming out. So the reload of Battlefield 4 is 1.85 seconds on the AK5C. Let's see if I can do it faster. Now, I don't have a bolt release on this. I'll have to use the charging handle. Oh.
Very awkward way to cock it there.
That's a funny reload.
Yeah, obviously he doesn't have the bolt release catch like he said. So he's trying to find a way of releasing the cocking handle. He's going under with his left hand and then went with the right hand. I would have most probably liked the SA80. If you just sort of go over with the left hand, may work better. I wonder if that'd be quicker. Let's see what he does. No, that did work going under like that. Fair play. That was pretty quick. You're not going to get the 1.85.
So what is the FNC? Well, not far off. So what is the AK5 like to run and gun with? Well, oh, I can't do that. We'll get to that in a second. Well, so to briefly go over what it's like to shoot with, I will say gun is heavy, so the recoil is very nominal. The trigger pull is not bad. It's not great, but for a military trigger, it's acceptable in my opinion.
I did say the recoil didn't seem that much.
Hot. As you can see how I touched that top of the rail. So pretty much you're just right onto this plastic for your life to really get a good grip on the gun. The ergonomic of that saw grip may not be to your liking. It may be to your liking. It's up to a user preference. I don't mind it. I kind of like it. The gun is fun to shoot. It's another 5.56 gun to shoot, so it's not as exotic as a lot of the other guns we get on the channel, you know? We're using some very fun exotic guns here, but as a military rifle, I think it's really cool and it is aesthetically pleasing. Now, in a second, we'll go ahead and break it down, but I did want to talk about some issues we were having. You should see by now, Colton will have edited in all the mess ups when I'm talking about this.
Yeah, so it's getting a few stoppages.
God dang it!
I wonder what would be the correct way of sort of cocking it. Is it a right-handed sort of cock, or is it easy to do it with your left?
So what kind of
just go over the
malfunctions?
top like we do with the
failure to
SA80.
extract and then a double feed. So it would fail to extract the case, and then it would start to feed in the next round, causing me a double feed in that sense. So I'd have to strip the mag, rack, get that case out of there. Thankfully, it'd strip out pretty easy, toss mag in and go back to work. It's happening on some mags, not on the others, but overall, it started to work. Thankfully, this isn't my duty gun. If it was doing that and it was my duty gun, I would be very mad.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a sort of extraction issue or whether that's a magazine issue. You know, is there an issue with magazine sort of feeding rounds in slightly, but it sounds like it's an extractor issue. And it seems to be happening quite regularly. There was a few sort of cutouts there where it did happen quite regularly. You don't really want that. So that is obviously a major issue with this rifle, is obviously extraction off the case and then feeding the next round. That is something you really don't want to happen too often on the battlefield. Looks clean, looks like it's working well. So there could be obviously a common extractor issue. Anyone in the Swedish military who's watched this, used this many times before, does this happen a lot, or is it maybe because this is a clone?
To note, this gun will lock back on an open bolt, especially with these mags we're using, but there is no bolt catch on this lower, that being because this isn't a true AK5C. Now, the AK5s, they didn't have that feature until they brought out the AK5C where they added that. Joel went ahead and he added in a faux bolt catch just because there was a hole there, so you can kind of see where that comes into play. But if you put in a fresh mag and you want to drop that gun, there's nothing to drop it with, right? Minus the charging hand. That is to take of note. Now, real quick, we'll blaze with the manual of arms. Manual of arms being very simple on this gun since there's no bolt catch. You have your mag release, then you have your safety. Safety has no click because it is a full auto selector. Gun's sadly not full auto. There is no click. And then, of course, your trigger. Now, let's go break down the gun. Now, one thing I should mention real quick is going to be the mags. The mags are compatible with they're NATO mags, so you can use them with your AR-15s. There are FN-specific mags that came with the FNC or the AK5, so those are what we have in the gun right now. Now, what I wanted to do real quick is let's break her down and show you what the internals are like.
They should switch to the sort of new P mags, the plastic mags, saves with sort of rust and durability.
Break her down real quick. Weapon is safe. Okay. So to break her down, we have two pens. Kind of reminiscent of an AR-15, if you're comfy with that, which I am. It feels like home. We pop these bad boys. Boom. Separate upper from lower.
It's nice and
make
easy.
my life a little bit easier, so they're not married together. So we have our lower right here. Take a look inside. You can see that fire control group. Very interesting. Very simple looking. So the FNC was on Garantham, and he was doing that ice test that he likes to do. And when it was all frozen up, it did really good, and that makes sense for a gun that is designed to withstand such heavy cold. Maybe that's why the Swedes picked it, because they are the Fighting in the Northmen. Come on, Papa. Slide her out. Cool. All right, knob comes out. Big old nice textured knob. And then, is she hot? Is she hot? Can I touch her? Thankfully, the gun is not hot anymore. But now we have the guts of the weapon. We have our long stroke gas piston system and what looks like very reminiscent of an AK lug style bolt, which is really cool. And then we have the firing pin in there. It's kind of like, it's floating. It's a little flaccid in there. Can I say that? Okay, I'm a child, I'm sorry. And then we have that spring back here, okay? So I know it's all these big gunsmith words. Oh, spring, you got two bolt, and we got a bolt, and we toss her back in, and she locks back into place. Gun is very simple, and I can see why they went with such a design, maybe for fighting in, yet again, that cold, cold land up north. Put it on the dirty tailgate. So then you have our upper, right? Pretty simple to take down, put back together, which I like. I think it's pretty cool. I like that it has that side knob thing. It's very familiar. Yeah, we got to line her up in the hole.
Seems pretty simple to strip and put it back together.
Nice. And I got my hands dark. I gotta get my lead levels checked, dude. Been doing too much. Is admin results natty or not? Lead level check. All right, now we're going to do a little comparison. So the fire control group on the AK5 looks very similar to a lower fire control group on a SCAR 16, or I guess what, a SCAR 17 as well. So that's really kind of neat.
Pretty identical,
isn't
it, really?
And nothing is new under the sun. So the original prototype for a SCAR 16 lower was just a FNC lower. So real quick on the stock manipulation, there's a little button down here. You pull that down and you push it down, and then you can fold that stock up. Doesn't lock in. Boop,
I've never actually used a weapon with a folding stock.
Now, earlier in the video, I hinted about acquiring your own Swedish AK5. And well, to be honest, it's gonna take a little bit of crime. So let's dive on in and how to get one. So essentially what you're gonna need to do, you're gonna need to hire out some pretty young woman. She's gonna go have to target, you're gonna have to do your homework, target a specific lonely Swedish soldier that is down bad. Use that woman to seduce that soldier, lure him back to her lair, at which point you'll knock him out with some roofies, and then you could steal his Swedish AK5. Now here comes the tricky part, getting it home. You're gonna need to charter a smuggling vessel of sorts with a shady smuggler character. He's gonna be a shady smuggler who completed the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. It's gonna be impressive. Now, you charter that vessel, you take it home, and you bring home the booty. That's essentially, I mean, that's how I would do it, if I'm being honest.
Sounds pretty easy to me. Let's all go and get a Swedish AK5.
You're gonna have to do some wheeling and dealing around the world and figure out how to get all the parts necessary to actually do it.
It's a shame in the UK though, because I'd love to be able to do this. Like, you can't just head down any sort of range or set one up in your back garden and test all these weapon systems out, and you can't even get the weapon systems. It's good that the Americans can sort of do this. There's a positive about their gun laws, and we get to see these amazing videos. You know, we'd have to join a gun club, get a license, pop down the range. You're very limited on what you can do on the range.
So the Swedish AK5, man, the gun is freaking cool, I will say. If you're a big fan of this platform, then I think it looks cool. Treat to you. Aesthetically, the gun is pleasing. It has a lot of pop culture value to it. It is a cool military weapon that has been battle proven now. So there's a lot that goes into a firearm like this, and it tells a cool story. It tells a story of service for a different nation's people that have used it, and it has a rarity factor with not many of these floating around in the United States, them making it, as Larry Vickers would say, moon rock rare. So getting a Swedish AK5 on the channel is a real treat. If you're someone out there that has access to an AK5, hey, let me know. I'd love to do a video on that bad boy, even if I have to go to Sweden. Bad boy counter. I know we're at the end. I don't know how many I said this entire video. Gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Your comments are a sacrifice. Your comments are a sacrifice to the algorithm, God of what you enjoy Swedish military history. If you want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, Patreon, excellent way to support the channel, as well as merchandise. I have nothing else for you. Roll the bloopers. Are you filming? Stop! Hey Joel, why does your gun suck? Yeah, I want to see a magic trick, dude. Put those in the bloopers. Yeah, hold on 1 sec. Always a plane. There's always a plane, dude. Always a plane when we're filming. It shows up. And now this part has to end up in the bloopers. God! That's a joke. I'm not gonna go to prison violating FAA rules. Oh. If you're wondering what AK stands for, if you're looking at this thing and saying, hey, wait a second, admin, that doesn't look like an AK-47 platform. Well, guess what, viewer? And you'd be right to ask that thing because as this is what we would call the automatic, essentially it's dude. And what they have now is a winter is brew. That's a really bad idea. I thought I heard like tires from a distance. You have a very impressive fun cone. What? Wow, he did it. Now gun, we haven't shot it yet, so I can't go over that. I don't like it, I don't mind. Overall, the gun in, gentlemen, we also, don't let it, my God, there's a lot of sweat in my eye, holy shit. So, this, I'm gonna ambush him, ready? So real quick on the stock mini.
Oh, brilliant bloopers. Right, getting into the weapon system then, I think it does look aesthetically pleasing. I think it looks good. I think it fires really well. As I said at the beginning, the recoil seems really, really small, and he did say it's very nominal. So I think that's absolutely brilliant. It's obviously going to help with hitting the target, especially if you're firing multiple rounds consecutively pretty rapidly. It's going to help you engage that target a lot easier. I think the way they've painted it green obviously massively helps. There isn't much or any black in nature at all unless something's been set on fire and it is burned. So like I said, a lot of militaries now, and I know a lot of military personnel in the UK do like to sort of spray paint their weapons green if they can, or if I know that the new assault rifle and even the A3 have a lot more green on it to match with the uniform and the environment. The weapon seems very, very simple and easy to strip. I believe they strip it very, very quickly. When you watch sort of Swedish Ranger Jägersoldat series, you can see how fast they can strip it down and pull it back together. And you saw then when he took it apart, it was very, very easy to strip. So that massively helps if you do sort of have any sort of major sort of stoppages or issues when out on the battlefield, or if you're out on exercise or ops and you need to clean your weapon system. A little parts as possible makes it a lot easier, and the quicker you can do it, the quicker your weapon is cleaned and put back together, so it's not stripped just in case you are engaged by or ambushed by any sort of enemy. The folding stock is pretty cool. I've never actually used the weapon system with a folding stock, so that was pretty cool to see. The handguards being plastic, I think it does come in handy. Obviously, it saves with any sort of rust issues, but I never liked the SA80 when it had the plastic handguard, and I think they should try and get rid of that. And if you could add some sort of Piccadilly rail handguard, I think that would be brilliant, especially with any sort of new sort of parts that you want to add it to, like the light system. He's added any sort of LLM light laser modules. I think it's very handy, especially with sort of the worlds going in this new technology. Why not be able to have that capability for the Swedish soldiers, but to add them if they want to, especially when you're on sort of night ops and you do want to use some sort of laser to identify a target, either for yourself, or if you're sort of calling in some sort of fast air, or to talk another sort of section platoon onto a target. Having an LLM does come in really handy. Same obviously if you're doing sort of CQB, entering buildings, be able to have a light really does help. The sight, I think it's pretty cool that he's managed to get the sort of Swedish sight, having a Piccadilly round on top, but does help with that. Once again, if you want to be able to change sights in and out, I think is really, really cool. The metal mags, yeah, they're really good. We used to use them, but I think going sort of with the new P mags, the plastic mags, just once again helps with durability and rust. I think that is something that they could add in, but ultimately I think this is a really great weapon system. The Swedes have done really well with it. It is getting old, and I know they've got the new AK5C. I wonder when they are going to sort of update and bring in a whole new weapon, or whether they actually will. It's been around a long time, but like you said, it is battle proven, and it has been on ops, and it has proven that it can do what it needs to be done. Apart from that stoppage issue with extracting the case and feeding around at the same time, it seemed to happen quite a lot to him. Once again, maybe this is because it's a clone, or if you could help me out, does this happen quite regularly? Is it an issue that you're constantly bringing up to your superiors within the Swedish military? Because it's not what you really want happening quite regularly if the weapon is clean and should be firing as normal. So that's sort of the only real issues there really, is obviously extracting. I'll change the plastic handguard, add in some Piccadilly rails. Other than that, it is a pretty decent weapon system. It'd be handy to know, how do you cock it? He sort of went under with his left hand. Is that sort of typical way of doing it? Or is it easier to sort of go over and doing it that way? Comment below with the answer to this and what your thoughts are. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, please check out the original video in the description. As I said earlier, please like, share and subscribe to Combat Ready HQ. Check out our merch and our coffee over on our website, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.